I'd like to welcome everybody to this evening's town board meeting of Monday, October 30th, 2023. We'll begin with an invocation by Councilmember Lavin.
Thank you, Supervisor. Tomorrow's Halloween. This is just an opportunity to tell everybody who will be trick-or-treating to please be safe, and to the people coming home from work or driving out there on the streets to look out for our friends and kids in the neighborhood as they accumulate more candy, more than ever, in fact, based on my kids' candy haul. So just be safe for Halloween, and let's stand for the pledge.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'd ask our town clerk to please call a roll.
Supervisor Copa.
Here.
Deputy Supervisor Buckeye.
Here.
Councilmember Berger.
Here.
Councilmember Lavin.
Present.
And Councilmember Zakala.
Here.
Thank you.
First item on our agenda is the approval of minutes from Monday, October 16th, 2023. A motion to adopt those as they appeared in our agendas.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next items are Resolution 876 and 877. They're public hearings on this year's proposed CIP and preliminary budget. I'm going to motion to open public hearing 876 at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to motion to open 877 as well.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So I'm going to go through both these items, and so basically, the town budget is essentially due November 20th, and we have some work cut out for us still this year. Last year we had an 8% inflation, and while we stayed below tax cap last year, this year we have some work to do. There is a resolution tonight on the tax cap. I anticipate we're going to adjourn that resolution and continue to work on the budget. In terms of the general fund, hold on. There we go. So this gives you an idea of what the supervisor's expenditures by fund are. This is in my proposed budget, which serves right now as a seated preliminary budget. So in terms of the general fund, town's assessed value increased $48,885,929. That's 0.4518%. Last year in our budget, we had an appropriated fund balance from our general fund in the amount of $6,600,000. In the amount of $6,600,000. So this year we do not have that sitting in our general fund balance to appropriate. The 2024 rate, as it is on paper right now, is $3.70 per. Is that supposed to be per thousand, Daryl? Per thousand. And special while the general fund's going up, special districts, including sewer, drainage, and water, are decreasing. So right now, we're anticipating a tax levy in the amount of tax levy increase, bringing the tax levy up to $102.365 million. I know that's hard to read from back there. So
It's hard to read from up here.
yeah, on a I'm trying to find it on my sheet. Give me 1 second. So on a home assessed at a house value assessed at $250,000, the current budget would show an increase of $234. And again, that is before special districts. So the 2024 rate depends on which districts people are going to reside in. The rate is a culmination of a few factors. I mentioned the appropriation decrease We also have this year are finally feeling the effects of last year's 8.8 to 9% inflation, and our fixed cost, including debt payments and fixed assets, has increased, while our union contracts and salaries continue to increase as well. So additionally, to reduce future interest costs, the purchase of police and highway vehicles, I currently have them moved from the capital program, where coming into my first term, we'd been borrowing for those. That was okay when we had interest rates and the Fed was holding interest rates close to zero. Now with very high interest rates, we need to finally make the move and switch our annual purchases of highway and police equipment over to the budgeted fixed assets. And so with interest rates going up, obviously it's going to cost us more to bond or borrow. So that's a shift of about, I think that's about $1 million or a little over $1 million in fixed assets. So in order to continue to get back to where we've been in the past 2 years, I'm proposing a hiring freeze for the first 6 months of 2024. That should not affect police or sewer treatment. It will not affect sewer treatment. It should not affect police, as that it's not typically their hiring period. The town board will continue to look at that option along with some other budget measures. To note, when preparing the 2023 budget, the town had an excess fund balance of 19% for the general fund, or the 23 budget, or 16.29% of all funds, well above our fund balance policy of 10%. Last year, the fund balance was applied to the budget to return tax dollars, and this year we saw a revenue drop mainly in mortgage tax and with home sales slowing because of federal interest rate increases, while our expenditure increases more than change in revenue and decrease in fund balance use of about $3,872,000. So the 24, the town is paying for a large lighting project to convert streetlights to LED. We did that. We purchased the lights this past year. That was about a $30 million expenditure. So the upfront cost, the conversion, also have driven up some of our debt. However, the long-term savings offset that. We need to get into next year to see some of those offsets. So our fund balances in 24 stay strong. We'll be at 11% total fund. General fund balance at 10.55, above our policy. Personnel increases showed about 3.94% increase, or an increase of $2,329,000. And our debt has increased by $5 million with some of those bigger projects coming online, offset by mortgage tax decrease. So, we're going to continue to look at this at the board level, and I've asked the board to propose amendments. We're going to do, we've done some amendments in some of the special districts. We're going to look to amend general fund items, hopefully by Monday of next week. And then on the capital improvement program, so if you're not familiar with the CIP identifies and prioritizes large capital projects, their cost and funding sources. Generally speaking, the calendar year, the coming calendar year, is really what we're looking at in the CIP. Those are commitments. The out years tend to be aspirational projects, and we try to narrow the cost and when we get into this year. So looking at a summary of the recommended 2024-2029 CIP, it's a 6-year program that includes 96 projects with a total bonding value of $156 million. Amount proposed to be funded in 24 is $24,112,000 in long-term bonding. And that is offset by 37,289,000, which we have or anticipate receiving in federal, state funds and grants. For the primary function of that is an increase for anybody who's familiar with the West Side Interceptor project, which has been a long-standing out-year item in our CIP. It was been about anywhere between 25 million and 30 million in anticipated capital costs. The West Side Interceptor is the sewer line. It's a 56-inch line that carries all the sanitary from the west side and the south side of town, including Williamsville and Snyder, into and across the 290, and that corridor, bringing that up Sweet Home towards the treatment plant. That line has been at capacity and actually causing some issues for us. We are excited because we're anticipating receipt of 30 million in state funding to create that project and move forward with it. When we do that, it causes about another 11 million in other west side town sewer work, but in all, those are some of our older sewers in the Eggertsville and Boulevard Central areas. So look at CIP bonded projects. We're using the last of our ARPA funding on the water pollution control facility. That's why it doesn't show up as a 24 bonded project. We have paving, transportation, and vehicles, parks and recreation, water lines, sanitary system, and then some other facilities and studies. The funding program in the CIP for infrastructure maintenance, repair, and upgrades over the past 5 years is currently, is kind of outlaid there. You can see we've been putting a tremendous amount of resource into most of those items over the years. I'm happy to see this big sanitary increase this year that's going to take care of a couple of major projects for us moving forward. I think that's it. So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions from the board first, if they have any. I know we've had a lot of individual conversations about this and probably will continue to.
I've discussed it with the appropriate people many times, and unfortunately, this is where the budget is.
Well, like I said, we're going to continue to work on it. I anticipate going all the way through the deadline here. So
Yes, I know. I'm still looking.
Yep. Is there anybody from the audience? Mike, sure, you have a comment.
I just want to confirm it though, at one time, we put our police cars in the capital improvement budget. We're not doing that, right?
We have traditionally put them, or as long as I've been in office and prior to me, we've put them in the capital line. This year, we're removing them from the capital line and putting them in as a direct expense. We're proposing that, so. Anybody have any comments or questions?
Jane Cox, Harlem Road. It's unfortunate the weather is nasty tonight. There's not a lot of people here. I attempted to find the CIP on the town website, and the link that was provided gave me an error message. So I have copies of that if anybody wants to fix that. I did find it under the planning department. There is a link for anybody that wants to find it. But anyway, are we doing the CIP and the budget in a double hearing?
Yep, everything's open.
All All right, I was looking at the CIP section right at the beginning, the funding for 2024, bonding for all these Central Park projects. 2024 calls for $8.2 million, 2025, $14.5 million, and 2026, $6 million. I don't know what happens after that because there's no more figures there. That's a tremendous amount of money.
Some of that is musical fare, and that is offset by a lease that we're negotiating. So it's not, it's an outlay, but it also has revenue back to it.
So we're providing the funding for the building.
They have to
and
lease it from us.
Then they return in the form of paying a lease for using the building.
Yes,
And the ownership stays with the town.
yes.
Okay. Then when I looked farther through the CIP, obviously there's always a lot of sewer department projects. I get that. It's very expensive, but I understand it. But when we
Jane,
get
I didn't
to
hear which part you were just referring to.
sewer,
Oh,
sewer,
okay. That was
wastewater
the
and
word
sewer.
I missed.
Sorry. I'll try to speak into the mic. When you get to all the youth and recs section,
Yep.
there's no figures for athletic and recreation facilities, community centers, neighborhood community parks. There's nothing in 2024 except for the Audubon Golf Course. And there's improvements for that. And no other park projects. So I thought that was sort of interesting, where the focus is on that. And now that you've mentioned about the budget, I was hoping to have a summary of the budget, which we discussed, but I guess it's verbal rather than written. I'm very surprised to hear that there may be a hiring freeze.
So that's on new hires and replacements.
Right. And you mentioned police and sewage treatment. You said they should not be affected, but are they included?
The sewer treatment is not included. The police hire after that. So police have to hire when there's a list put out that happens over the summer. So we can't hire until then.
They can't hire till they have a
We
list,
actually-
but then they can hire.
But we
Right.
just hired,
The hiring freeze expires in June.
I know, but we just hired, I think it was
17 officers.
17 officers.
So we're at a full force for the first time in a while. We've been able to hire
As long as we keep them,
as long as everybody makes it through
The academy.
Yes.
right?
But it was a huge hiring, so the anticipation is that we're going to be close to full. Either way, this doesn't really impact their hiring.
Well, hiring freezes impact other departments
It does.
as well in the town, and I don't like to see them personally.
Okay.
And yet, there were big stipends handed out to exempt employees. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Thank
Okay, thanks. Okay, anybody further? It's on the budget and the CIP, yes. Both.
You don't need to sign, you can just say your name and address.
Hi, Shelley Schatz.
Address,
1952 Kensington Avenue,
thank you.
Amherst. Okay. Not my phone number, because I don't remember. It's in my phone. Anyway, I have to be honest, I am extremely disappointed. I mean, I was outside, that's how I, campaigning, and that's how I heard about this, oh, it's tonight. But I think as a town board, we need to do better. And I remember when I was first elected, my first election to the town board, all my volunteers went out and put letters in everybody in the town's mailboxes to let them know there was a budget hearing. And I remember saying to the current town board members, oh, I'm so excited, I can't wait to hear what people think. And that town board said to me, Shelley, nobody comes to the meetings. After we passed out those slingers, over 200 people were in this building. I did get a fine for $300 because my people put it in their mailboxes. My point is, if people know about it, they'll be here. I'm going to suggest that when we send the tax bills out, maybe we put a notice in that tax bill moving forward that the budget hearing will be on such a day, because this is important, number one. Number two, I've heard from some people, and I don't know that it's all correct, but I went on my computer and printed 200 pages out, and I only wanted one. The tax levy. Since 2016, the tax levy has gone up $31 million. The tax levy was like this. Like this.
Yeah, it was like that.
I know,
And-
but it
and
went up.
That's not what inflation was like.
But regardless, here's the thing. If people aren't here to understand why it is, they're going to look at this and they're going to say what? And that's the problem with how this is working. That's number one. Number two, I noticed, well, there were a couple of police officers that I spoke to in the past. They too, they're happy that there's more police officers, but we need far more than what we have. And considering everything going on in today's world, if you talk to the people, they are concerned. Even though we live in Amherst, they're concerned. Highway. And I don't know necessarily how highway plays into this when I went on the budgets, because I was looking for highway, because there are not enough highway employees. My understanding is many of them have retired. Many of them are at the age where they could retire soon, and we don't have any young people that we're bringing up in training in case they choose to retire. But I did see that, and this is what I don't understand. Director of Community Development it's a new hire coming up for $144 roughly $1,000. A deputy director for community development for $79,000. I don't know, where are they going to be? Whose department? Who's responsible for them?
Director of Community Development.
You've got a thing in here that says economic development. You are hiring someone
Have
for.
Economic Development. We already have a staff.
Well, this is something new. It says your budget is $144,000, and then $79,000 for a deputy director of community development. I've never heard of those two departments like that.
That's not true. We've had an Economic Development Department since 2019.
Okay, but
Those positions have been in that department, so I don't know where you're getting that
this is
one.
supervisor's budget. Okay. Okay. Maybe they've been there. All right, but you're hiring a new person. Is that correct?
We hired a
We're
grants
creating
administrator.
You are you doing away with the general crew chief's position?
No,
You're creating a new one? I just circled these things in
I
red.
don't, which department? We have a lot of
I'm
general
talking
crew chief.
highway.
No. The highway,
Building maintenance. Building
highway
maintenance.
has a stipulated minimum that this board put in place
And
that
we
actually.
increased it from what it had been.
Right, it actually grows annually. So the number of highway employees by resolution grews this year, will grow next year, and will grow the year after.
Well, I understand that part, but the highway people are saying that they don't have enough employees, period, okay? And so I just Googled this and looked at this. So, not Googled it, but I went on the internet. All right, Deputy Director of Community Development, we already have one of those? And who is that
We
person?
already have that,
It's
yes.
already filled?
Yes, that's been filled. Those are the people working on the mall project and a lot of those other projects, but yes.
We didn't always have that, though.
We did not, no.
When did we hire them? When did we start that?
In 2019.
And that's because of the amount of development and everything going on?
It was the lack of development, but yes.
Okay, just so I can explain it, because people are asking me these questions, and I'm like, I never heard of it.
The town's development was flat, and and the mall was going into receivership, so we needed to jumpstart those portions of our economy. So since then, we have had those
So
positions.
then when you bring up the mall and you go back to the part about the sewers and how we were doing the Boulevard Mall and we were fixing over there on Maple Road and all of that, that's because of this mall and what they're doing there. So the taxpayers are really going to pay for a lot of all of that? Is that the plan?
It's not only because of the mall, it's the entire west side of the town of Amherst. We had 2 environmental justice zones on the west side of the town, right? The town's sewer on the west side hadn't been touched in major transmission lines hadn't been touched in years. So the issue had always been, we can't do the transmission lines if we're not going to do the interceptor project. The interceptor project was a huge lift. So we were able to get a huge grant as a portion of a match. We have to do work there. But yeah, I mean, we're essentially fixing some of the oldest sewer areas in Amherst.
Okay, but the thing that I hope you all understand, I would assume you do, is that when the people just read little bits and pieces and they're not hearing these things, that's why they're crazy. They're thinking, oh my God, why are we paying for this? That's what they think, Deb. That's really what they think, that's what they're saying.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, and then now there's okay, so for recreation, all right? Recreation specialist, expansion coordinator, is that a new position?
No.
It's not like don't we have a deputy, or we have like Mary Diana, and then you have Eric Guzdeck, and then who's the next person? Is that another thing, or no?
We have restructured that department to some extent, and so
We actually merged rec with senior, so there's Mary Diana, then there's a number of deputies, including Melissa Abel in seniors, and
Yep, I know she's there.
then, I can't think of the rec director's name.
That's okay.
Janice.
I'm just trying, people are asking, and I've never heard of these positions. I thought there was 2. General crew chief, are we hiring a new general crew chief?
In which department?
It's under building maintenance. I got so many papers.
there are no new general crew chiefs. They've all been in existence for a while.
All right, so you're not getting rid of anybody from highway in trying to put together a DPW.
We're adding people to highway, we're adding people to police.
Okay, so,
Officer's position, and there's an increase in highway staffing.
and currently in highway, we're how low under the number? Like, I've been told we're very,
Years ago, it was cut by 30%. I believe you may have been in office at the time, it was under Satish. We dwindled at that number for a while. My predecessor held things at that number. We've increased highway since. I don't know what the numbers were.
okay,
I
well,
don't know
because you
where
can
they are
see, when you
currently.
look at the grid, I mean, the predecessors were like this, and then it went like that.
Yeah, I got it.
But-
Because we were short-staffed,
Oh,
seriously.
Jackie, and I understand that,
we
but
also-
what I'm saying is that if the people, if they hear it and understand it, then they're not gonna be asking all these questions. They're really asking a lot of questions.
I appreciate that. Yes, at one point, this town had a 25% fund balance. Years of flatlining budgets and underestimating insurance caused us to run a series of deficits. In 2019, we started our first budget together as a board, except for Mike. No offense, Mike. We started to say we're going to create truly balanced budgets. We haven't run a deficit aside from 2020 with COVID year. We haven't run deficits since. So the ability to have a balanced budget when you're trying to supply increased town services inevitably means you're going to have a tax levy increase, right? And as the town's grown, the levy's grown. And so in order to accomplish things like have more police officers, put police officers inside the schools, create new police officer positions, create new highway positions, the offset there is there's an increase in revenue needed to fund those types of things. So,
And we do have more resource officers going into all the schools?
no, we
mean,
have
do we-
put a resource officer in each of the high school. They're responsible for the middle schools that feed those high schools.
Okay, because I know that's important too.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Until
thank you.
I come up with more questions.
Okay, anybody else? Seeing none, I'm going to move to close the public hearings.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So the next item on the agenda is public expression. Once we get through public expression, we're going to inevitably have my first resolution, when basically we're going to adjourn that resolution. So both the CIP and the budget resolutions will adjourn with that. Although, like I said, I anticipate the budget going all the way out to November 20th because we're going to need every last inch of space we have this year. With that said, I'm going to open for public expression items not in the public hearings. There's probably a sign-up list. I'll motion to open that public expression period at this time. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Joe.
Joe Bartovich, 35 Bucyrus. It's budget time again, and I like looking at all the hidden items tucked inside the budget. One that has been ongoing now for 3 years involves the Amherst Department of Economic Development. It's kind of overlap with what was said before. That I saw was created in February 2020 in the town code. The first year budget was at $250,000. It was not stated how many department employees this supported, but one section of the law creating the department stated that it must provide the town and public with an annual economic report, which will be posted on the department webpage. It's been 3 full years, so why haven't we had any reports posted? I've asked a few times about that and always get the same answers. A new director was appointed, they'll be work on it soon. Or, it's in the works, we'll let you know. In the meantime, the money keeps rolling in. The budget went from $250,000 in 2020 to $686,000 in 2024. The number of employees is now at 5 from 3, and it's still no annual report.
We'll get a report posted, Joe. We have one. They completed town's economic plan, which this town board adopted last meeting, I think. So the report, we can get a report out. That's not an issue.
Well, it should be, because I've been looking for it.
We'll get one
Other people
posted.
haven't. They should have responsibility there to put it in. They know their project there.
Understood.
Let's see. It does seem similar to the assistant to the supervisor job, who with a current raise of $105,500 now makes more than the supervisor himself. Speaking of the supervisor salaries, I found that Amherst pays the supervisor $105,000, while Tonawanda and Cheektowaga both pay theirs in the low 70s. Town board members here make $35,000, while the other towns pay around $21,000. Why do elected officials here deserve an almost 70% raise over the other towns? I've been trying to figure that out.
This town board didn't put those numbers into place. I just want to let you know that we haven't had salary increases over the past 6 years.
Are we doing more work here? I don't think so. The town created the Open Government Advisory Board to research how to produce clean information for the public. Town law requires that the created board send to them or cause them to meet once every 2 months. They have not met that since July 2022 and have only 3 members left of the 10 required. I've been contacted by Mike Zuzaka. He asked me if I wanted to join, but the other board members here also have requirements to nominate 2 people. I would ask that they get on that and see if they can appoint 2 more to get this board working again. Board members here are paid well. Town overall pays well. I think we need some more accountability. We can get more out of the functions here. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Point of information. Sukala, thank you.
Tom was next.
All right, Tom. Frank.
Good evening, town board members. My name is Thomas Frank. Thank you for granting me the 3 minutes to comment on the resolution, on the planning resolution 2023-900, and it's PUD SP 2023-11. To comment on regarding the adoptive reuse of the Westwood Pharmaceutical Country Club, the golf course, into the Amherst Central Park Greenway, a multi-modal transportation corridor in the town, having interconnectivity of the Ellicott Creek and Tonawanda Creek, the LWRPs, the local waterfront revitalization plans. As far as the master plan for the town, the tributaries include trailways to the Niagara River Greenway. As far as the 2050 model, that they appropriated $450 million to Erie and Niagara County to mitigate the cumulative negative impact on the town. The Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor. This is a very it's a long-term project where we are. This is the transportation vortex of northwestern New York, as far as the Buffalo Niagara International Airport and the interstate thruway, and the state highway that goes out the front door. But also, I'd like you to know that there's an opportunity here for long-term funding through 2050 for the GBNRTC, the Greater Buffalo Niagara Transportation Council, as far as the New York State Department of Transportation, the master plan for 2050. That this is, as far as the LWRP, they use the waterfront. They should have used the term the watershed, having to do with the infrastructure, the water lines, the sewer lines, and the highway storm sewers that are all affected long term. So there's an opportunity. If you get a chance, you might want to get into the site, the plan, New York State NYS Transportation Masterplan.com. That there's this is a demonstration project, let's see. I'd just like you to know that they've had the GBNRTC had their meeting for the as far as the smart the climate smart communities of Cheektowaga, what they're doing with the Skajackwada Creek, Clarence and Lancaster, that these projects they exclude. They don't include Ellicott Creek as far as the watershed. That they it's a regional transportation project for sustainable environmental communities in Cheektowaga, Buffalo, Clarence, Depew, and Lancaster.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Thank you. I didn't mean to. Okay, thank you. You do good work.
All right, thanks, Tom.
I just realized I had one more question. Jane Cox, Harlem Road. I was looking at the last page of the CIP, which I know we're not talking about right now, but there was a note there that said under 2024, the total anticipated bond funding was 24.112 million, whatever. And then there's an asterisk that says without the mall acquisition.
Yeah, so there's if we commence in Article 4 taking on the Boulevard Mall, there is a mall potential outlay it's highlighted in cyan near the top. That has to be a revenue-backed bond, which means that we have to enter into sellback agreements or have proposals in before we can bond it. So it's basically would be the town taking the mall, using a bond action or a borrowing action, and then agreeing to sell it to a developer or multiple developers. And right now, the trick is in trying to make sure that we sell it for more than we would take it. So that is, but that's an anomaly because so we listed the borrowing action. We didn't include it in the bond action at the bottom because, again, we would have to have a sale back agreement before we could actually take that action. So it's hopeful, but we still we're still trying to negotiate all of that type of stuff.
And then the other asterisk amount was the figure without the mall demolition. Who's going to pay for the demolition?
So either the demolition has to be incorporated. So say, I forget what the number was, 42 million for the mall acquisition price, somewhere in there. Was that it's on the very first page of the CIP.
Sean pulled it up.
Yeah, here it is. So,
There's no,
so if you look under Urban Renewal Agency, I'm wrong. I'm right at 42. Sorry, 12. So the acquisition, oh no, the demolition's 10. We don't list the acquisition. We don't have a number in for acquisition.
no.
So that, I see what happened. So UR1 is blank, so we should have a number in for acquisition. We actually don't really want to disclose our acquisition number at the moment. But the idea here would basically be that acquisition number has to accomplish the demolition and then the mall infrastructure piece. So if you look at it, if we were able to obtain the mall for, say, 400,000 an acre, we would want to sell back for about $1 million an acre. And so that would be how you would finance a demolition.
Okay.
Unless the state wants to grant us demolition, that's a whole different issue. We will apply for a grant, or in a proposal, a developer could say, we'll take them all down, and that's another possibility. So those are the anticipations there.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. All right, anything further? Seeing none, I'll move to close public expression.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
All right, on to the agenda. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. I'd ask our town clerk to please read the consent agenda for the evening.
Supervisor Copa, 2. Town Attorney, 1, 2, 3, 4. Building Maintenance, 1. Controller, 1, 2. Contract Compliance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Engineering, 1, 2. Highway, 1, 2, 3. Human Resources, 1, 2, 3, 4. Planning, 2. Police, 1, 2. Sewer Plant, 16 is 1. Youth and Recreation, 1. Communications, 1. Consent, 2. Consent, and 3 referred to attorney. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll motion to adopt the consent agenda first.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, on my first resolution, Resolution 843, going to motion to set a special meeting on November 9th, 2023 at 4:30 PM for the purpose of considering this resolution as well as proposed budget amendment resolutions, which we may come up with before then. So I'll first make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'm going to motion to adjourn Resolution 2023-843 to the scheduled special meeting on November 9th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we'll see if we can come up with changes then, or if we're going to continue down that path. The next item on the agenda is Resolution 900 to set a public hearing date on December 4th, 2023. No changes to the resolution. I'm going to motion as it appeared in the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then, so Resolution 902, a point of at least a little conversation here. The sidewalk waiver request, SWW-2023-02 for 801 Air. So the petitioner is Tyler Wanaler. I don't know if I have that right. And the sidewalk waiver has been reviewed by our planning and engineering departments. And I know that there's recommendations listed in our agenda this evening. For the sake of the conversation, I'm going to motion the resolution first.
Second.
All right, on the question, we have some questions. So the motion's to deny, right? Is that?
It just says that he has been reviewed. Attached are the reviews from both departments. So
then-
planning denied, was recommended by Christopher Schregel.
Right, okay.
But from Dan Howard, it was recommended to approve.
So can we get an I mean, where I'm coming from on this is with sidewalks, we get complaints that there are no safe places for people to walk, and then people ask for sidewalk waivers on a street. So what I'm wondering, I'm leaning towards the deny, but I'm wondering why planning recommended to approve. Can I ask the planning director to clarify, please? Go to the microphone at the end of the table. We're going to make you sit at the big table for a minute.
Okay, the red light's on.
Thank you.
I think, Christopher looks at it strictly from a constructability perspective, just to see whether or not it can work there, whether there's any kind of facilities that might impede the sidewalk installation. He found that there were not, and that's, if you read his recommendation, you'll see that he caveats that recommendation with that information. We recommended to hold off on it, to accept the denial of it at this point with the provisor, which we normally do, that the town board can order them in when the town board sees fit to do it. So at some point, if there's sidewalks that need to be installed along Air Road, town board chooses to put them in, then the town board can order them in, and the property owner would be required to put them in. To put them in now, I guess, he'd be the only one with sidewalks on Air Road.
Yeah.
And it is a conundrum. We face this, as you pointed out, in several different locations.
Yeah. I mean, there are several streets in town where some houses have sidewalks and others don't, and it just continues to add to it. And
So, I mean, if the town were going to order the sidewalks in, I think the town would probably want to consider a broader range of issues related to that, like how to take care of them in the winter, or what kind of maintenance would take place. Are the shoulders adequate for sidewalks all the way up and down the corridor? it probably requires a more comprehensive look than just a single property by property.
So I guess the big question in front of us right now is this one property, but do we set a trend here, or do we continue a trend that we don't intend to continue? Because I think everybody on this board, my guess would be in favor of as much connectivity and pedestrian access as we can get. However, the idea of a sidewalk to nowhere, right? We have a lot of those around town too, where somebody built new, there was no sidewalk, waiver request granted, and you have this strip of sidewalk sitting in the middle of nothing with no connectivity. So, it's like a chicken and egg scenario, right? Do you say, no, we're going to deny the request, and you're going to put the sidewalk in, but our hope is that it's the first of further sidewalk implementations, or do we deny it and just prolong the problem? Or do we, approve the waiver and prolong the problem? I don't know where the rest of the board is on this one. I tend to lean towards saying, no, let's deny the request for a waiver, because at the end of the day, if we don't start somewhere, then we don't get anything. And we end up with like North Forest situations where, we have disconnects, areas that are sidewalked, and then all of a sudden in areas that are heavy pedestrian traffic, we don't have any sidewalks. So I don't necessarily know that I'm ready to say, let's order sidewalks in on Air Road. But I do think that, this just exacerbates the problem a little more, right? It's going to look goofy, but I don't know how you get started if you don't get started.
This has been discussed in the past. There probably needs to be a more comprehensive look at it town-wide and select those corridors that don't have sidewalks now that should be prioritized for that kind of treatment. It would make it easier for us to make these recommendations if we knew that the town board.
This is a new build, right? At the end of the homes
I
on
think so,
Air.
Yeah, yep,
So there's nothing south of it at the moment.
right.
There's nothing in either direction
No, but
of
I'm
it.
saying there's no homes south of it, right? There's the backyards of homes or the wall.
No, I think there are some homes on Air Road, close to Klein.
Yeah, but I'm saying, is there anything fronting on Air south of this location? You're heading north.
I don't think so, but you can
That's heading north.
pull the aerial photo.
So you have Darwin out there, right? And not Darwin. What's the street next there? Yeah, so Da Vinci Court,
Oh,
and then Air. So Air comes up between Da Vinci and Renaissance. And on the Renaissance side, there's a trail, like paved asphalt path.
I don't know.
I think there is. And then you've got 3 homes to Klein. So we're talking about in the future making Klein a complete street, right? So, the Air and Covenant Garden, Paradise, and Young's are all the major intersecting collectors.
They are.
I just feel like, hey, you want to build a new home? Great, you're starting the sidewalk trend.
And honestly, a statement from this board in that respect would be extremely helpful.
Okay.
Dan, I didn't hear what you just said.
I just mentioned that I think a statement in that regard from the town board would be extremely helpful. Otherwise, we're kind of taking them one at a time, and we're not really sure, when the sidewalks might be put in or could be put in. And this is a relatively new area, relatively speaking, anyway.
Yeah, I guess I feel like if you're building a new home, and especially if you're the last kind of home on the street there, you could have argued that when the developer built Da Vinci Court with that wall, they should have put sidewalk on Air behind it, right?
Yep.
Because, the idea is basically connect Klein south. So I guess I'm saying personally, I'm saying just no, deny the waiver. It's not that much added cost to that new home construction.
Again, that gives us something to work with.
It's gotta be a $500,000 house that they're building. Mike, anything? Sean?
I agree.
Okay. All right, so there's a motion and a second. So the motion is written as a positive granting a request for waiver. And there was a motion and a second. I would say that we either have to amend the motion or,
I move to amend the motion to say deny.
One way or another.
well, it doesn't, I'm just saying, but if it's entered by the planning department and their recommendation is to proceed, then I think we,
Okay,
so, Councilwoman Berger made a motion to,
Amend.
to amend. I would say we should make a motion to amend. You should add to that to read, deny the waiver request.
Yeah, but
Okay,
that's what I thought I said.
So
I-
there's a motion, to amend to deny the waiver request. Okay, a second, all in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Okay, so I'll motion the original resolution as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that should just read that the town board denies the request or.
a waiver.
Right. Okay, and I think with that information, Dan, I think that's the, planning department can take that as much direction as you want. And then we'll go from there. So the other item, I think that was it. We have to, motion to, there's a suspension, so we'll motion to leave the agenda for the purposes of dealing with one suspension regarding, streetlight repair. Motion to, leave the agenda at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And, Deputy Supervisor?
thank you. Supervisor, this is a request from Linda Yule, entitled, Contract for Emergency Repair of HID Streetlights, CRS number 4389. It's a streetlight repair contract. Attached fees, please find an emergency purchase documentation form related to streetlight repair. This contract is for the repair of existing HID streetlights while the LED conversion is taking place. The number of streetlights with existing issues is greater than anticipated, and repair is needed immediately due to safety concerns. Pricing of several vendors was compared with the LED Energy Solutions pricing found to be the most beneficial to the town. They were also available to begin the work immediately. The contract will be routed through the contract routing system. Financial impact would come from A5182-4110 and E9997-4110. Amount to be determined, and I so move.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and I'll motion to return to regular agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm going to motion to open up a second round of public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody else? Motion to close public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And a motion to adjourn the board meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thanks.